Well, this is the first solar panel that I bought. It's a 100-watt hard panel made by, I think it's Renogy. And yeah, this is my first outing. I've got the aimer up here, and it's pretty close. It's pretty close. It's on top of my hot tub. I'm trying to avoid any shadows falling across it, and there's a light shadow that's going across right here. But basically, yeah, I've showed folding panels like you would carry for portable ops, but a hard panel like this is probably something you would use in a fixed location like at your house, where you are going to need, you would want it to hold up over the years to be weatherproof. Now, what's it plugged into? Well, is a solar generator that is probably too small for the person that is absolutely positively going to be running QRO radios. QRO radio, QRO amp. Maybe you want to run a desktop computer, some type of thing. You're probably going to find this is not large enough, that it doesn't have enough solar input capability. It doesn't have a large enough transformer to meet all of your power needs. You may decide an approach like I've decided to take, where I have a SoGen and I also have a 100 amp hour, or about 1,200 and something watt hour 12 volt battery. By splitting across that's going to cover everything. It's a Ecoflow solar generator, SoGen. This one is a River 2 Pro, so it's like 760 something watt hours. So it's their largest one underneath a kilowatt. It's the largest in the River line. Next up is their Delta line. You'll notice it's got USB-A, USB-C. It's got a automotive DC cigarette lighter socket, as well as two coaxial DC sockets, and then it's got a built-in inverter. So we've also got AC. Right now on the display, it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in Florida. This 100-watt panel is giving us 59 watts in. Again, a little bit of scattered clouds, a little bit of a shadow running across. I haven't dusted the front of the panel, so this is far from ideal, but I think it's a good idea to get a feel for what, you know, like a normal person should be able to expect under normal conditions, instead of just always doing things, you know, under ideal conditions. And in fact, I noticed the input has dropped down to 31 watts. One of the things I did was I made sure the battery wasn't fully charged. When you're testing how fast charge controllers, charge panels can produce charging current, you want to make sure that your battery's charge controller isn't looking at an almost fully charged battery and slowing down the charge rate. There are a couple things that the software of the Ecoflow allow you to do, and I'm running the app on my phone, and I will insert some screenshots over top of the video to let you see what the screen looks like. And that is, you can prolong the battery life of the Ecoflow's battery by saying I want the maximum charge level to be set to something less than 100. So in my case, I've got it set to stop charging when the battery reaches 95%. The other thing you can do is you can stop the discharge of the battery before it goes completely out. And so I've set the maximum discharge level to 10%. So what this is going to do is it's going to reduce the amount of battery power available to me, yes, but it's also going to increase the lifetime and the amount of capacity and cycles that I'll be able to get out of the battery in the Ecoflow. So that's a pretty nice thing. Another thing you can do is you can set limits to the rate at which the internal battery can recharge. There's an AC power cord that plugs directly in the wall, no brick, just plugs in the back of this unit. And when it's set to 940 watts, which is the maximum recharge rate, it takes about an hour and a half for this unit to recharge. Fans will come on, it will make some noise, but it gets charged in a hurry. If you're at a campsite and you have like access maybe to somebody's AC power outlet, maybe if you stop at a rest area, it can plug into an AC outlet or a store. You go into Starbucks, you take this in, you plug it into an outlet. You only have to spend about an hour and a half there and you can get all of your capacity back. Doing that over and over all the time at the fastest rate is going to be a trade-off between battery life and how much time you're waiting. So I like the ability maybe to say, you know what, I only want to use the fastest recharge when it makes a difference. If I'm somewhere where this thing can charge for longer and it's not going to make a difference, then go ahead and take longer to charge it. But this unit also, as I said, has an AC power cord for charging that it came with, and the unit has a DC power cord. If you choose to charge it via DC, because this is a cigarette lighter plug, you're limited to what typically cigarette lighter plugs support, which I believe is 10 amps. So here's a problem, or at least something you should be aware of, and that is if you have an amateur radio that needs less than 10 amps, especially if it needs less than 8 amps, this will probably work pretty good for you. The cigarette lighter plug is rated up to 10 amps. Also, if you have a way to power something via USB-C, 100 watts out. If you have a power delivery device via USB-C. You can also charge, I said you could charge it via AC, you can charge it via a DC, and you can also charge it via USB-C. But basically the quick charge is going to be AC, and the solar charge is going to be second fast. It's limited to 220 watts worth of panels connected to it. So its built-in charge controller right now is handling this 100 watt panel. I could put up to 220 watts through its built-in MPPT solar charge converter. The pure sine wave converter has a capacity of 800 watts. However, there's some technology that's built into the Ecoflow called X-Boost that lowers the volts to increase the watts. You're only supposed to use it with certain types of devices that aren't computerized, devices that don't have compressors or whatever. So there could be some cases where this would allow maybe an inductive cooking unit or a hot water kettle or something that required more than 800 watts to operate. But most people say, hey, unless you really know what you're doing, don't enable X-Boost, right? So that could be something that you could say, you know what, I want to run larger AC appliances in my campsite, in my vehicle. So what I really need is a solar generator that has a higher capacity inverter, and it'll support 1400 watts or 2000 watts or whatever, and they certainly make those. This unit weighs 17 pounds. It has a flat top, which makes it great for stacking. There is no wireless charging feature built into the top. 17 pounds is not that heavy. I don't know that I would let kids carry it around, but most adults probably could carry it with one hand and still have a hand free to open the door or whatever else. The connections are on the front with only the AC charge and the DC charge and the solar connections on the back. And I can't charge it from multiple sources at once. You do have control over the display and over the unit staying on or shutting off if it detects it doesn't have power being drawn from it. It's a pretty impressive unit, right? The front display can be cut off. Like if you didn't want it bothering you at night, you can make it go off. But I think it's also handy, so if you're like inside of a van or wherever, you can keep an eye on what's going on. The app on the phone for Ecoflows connects via Wi-Fi. I just saw a review on some new Blue Yetis, which is a different manufacturer, and they use Bluetooth for connecting to their apps. Getting your panels set up in an area, yeah, the sun's kind of gone behind a cloud. Getting your panels set up in an area that is predominantly sunny and shade-free makes a big difference. Something to consider, you see these people take flexible panels and they install flexible panels on the roof or the side of a vehicle, and you're like, oh yeah, my panels will be outside all the time. Well, you probably need to weigh in the fact that, well, if it's hot as blazes like in Florida or the Southwest, you probably want to park your vehicle where there's trees to keep it cool, which will put shadows on the panels. You probably don't want to have to keep moving your vehicle around. You find a level spot to park, but yet your vehicle needs to be moved to keep the panels in the sun to get sunlight. So to me, that's one of the advantages of not depending solely upon fixed to your vehicle panels, but having panels and stands that you can take out, and you can position the panels and the battery, if need be, in the area where the sun is, and then later on move it to continue to capture maximum sun. So something to think about there. Also, the battery that you capture the sunlight in doesn't have to be the battery that's connected to the radio you're using, right? If you've got multiple batteries, you can capture power into a battery that's in one place, and then later in, you can swap that battery out, or you can transfer the power out of that battery into a different battery. I waited until there was a sale and there were Amazon codes available. So instead of the normal $599 for this unit, I ended up paying about $330, $340 delivered. How much did that 100 amp hour lithium battery that I got, that I haven't shown on the stream yet, how much did it cost? About the same. It also features Bluetooth for monitoring its BMS, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and it has features such as cold charging and cold discharge protection and built-in heating. So it's not a bottom of the barrel unit. In fact, it probably had about $100 extra cost, bringing it up again to about $330, $340. So the combination of those two is the solution that I have in place. What I'm doing right now is I'm in the stage of measuring. I'm measuring the power needs of my devices. I'm measuring the power collection capability of my panels and my charge controllers. And then I'm plugging it all into a spreadsheet so I can graph out and say, okay, if I spend all day at the park, what energy, how much energy, what devices, what do they need? And I'll be able to take just what I need. If I'm going to go to a park, get there on Friday, spend the night, spend all day Saturday there, spend the night, and then leave on Sunday, then well, what am I going to do on that trip? What devices am I going to take? That's where I have to start figuring in some things like the use of an electric blanket, the use of lights inside of the van, the use of potentially electric powered cooking devices. I may have a choice between, do I take the gas stove? Do I use the solar kettle so I don't need to take as much electricity? Or do I take electric cooking devices knowing that it's going to be easier and it's going to be more convenient? If it happens to rain all that weekend, right? If it's raining, you know, then it's like, well, I don't have to stand outside in the rain to cook. I don't have to worry about trying to get a fire started in the rain. It could also be, hey, if it's cloudy and it's raining all weekend, I've got enough battery to make sure that my radios last. And, you know, I have some food that doesn't require cooking. Just a whole lot of things to consider. So what I want to do is I want to get those things, I want to get that information collected. I want to get it documented. And then I want to create some videos that go through the process of sharing the planning and plugging that in to some potential plans to forecast power needs, and then actually doing it, measuring what gets used in reality, and seeing how good of a forecast, good of planning I can get. Because ultimately, you don't want to simply take everything that you own, or else you don't have as much space. You just don't want to do that. It's like the guys in the park. They've gotten down to the point of enjoying Wednesday morning at the park. Operating QRP really boils down to what's the least amount of stuff that you can have to carry and pack out there and back and still have your fun. Now, I think the same approach is something that's going to apply to both parks on the air, and if there were any sodas in Florida, it would apply to sodas or any other type of field operation. You know, we talk about electronic noise, and there's no escaping the fact that a lot of people can't enjoy amateur radio at their house, or it's very compromised because of all of the electronics, the RFI, the QRM that exists at their house. Well, if you create a field operating scenario where you have to carry devices that generate the noise, or you have to pick a campsite that's located in the wired for power section, where everybody with their trailers and their generators and their capacitive touch lamps and their plasma flat screen TVs and everything are located, then I don't see you're really winning out. And so I think the more lightweight, more boondocking approach is going to be beneficial to the amateur radio operator, because it's also going to put you away from those additional sources of noise. Okay, we're up to 79% charge. Our solar panel has dropped back down to 26%.